All right, so we've done some polynomial division, but now we're looking at how we can use that to solve some other things here. So here we're going to use our polynomial division to find all of the roots. So one of the first things that I noticed here when I'm looking at this is that this here is 1 times 3 and 4 times 3 gives you that. So I actually see that it can be factored by grouping or factored by the box. So I'm going to go ahead and do that first and see if that takes care of everything. And then I'll come back and look at what we would do if you didn't recognize that. So by factor by the box, I would say what? I can pull an x squared out of those, and then x would make this one happen. And this would be -4 to make that happen. And then I would need a 3 to make that happen. And wow, that's factorable like that. So that would be x squared minus 4 times x plus 3, which then can be factored as x plus 2 and x minus 2 and x plus 3. So pretty powerful there, which would give me my roots of -2 and +2 and a -3. So if I were going to graph this, I would say I have something at -2 and at +2 and at -3. There's no repeating ones there, so I would just go starting up. I would go through, and that would be it. So the other way that I could do that is I could go ahead and plug that into my calculator and look for one of the roots, which you would either find this one or this one or this one, and then use that to do your long division. So let's look at this information here. The degree of this polynomial is you're trying to describe like how big the degree is, and this would be the highest power that's there. So we would call this a quartic, or we would call this a fourth degree polynomial. So this one here says that it bounces at this root. So there's a couple different things that you can do with that. If it bounces at that root, first of all, that means that at -3, it's actually going to be a bounce, which means if I were to use this as a factor, it would be x plus 3 quantity squared. So I can either divide that into my original, all of that, and find out what my other ones are, or I can divide just one of those into my polynomial. So I'm going to go ahead and just do the whole thing, which would be x squared plus 6x plus 9, because if you multiply out x times 3, or x plus 3 times x plus 3, you get x squared, you get 9, and then you also get your 6x there. So if I did that and did my division of that guy, I would have x squared and 6x and 9, and I would be dividing that into all of this. 4x to the 4th plus 24x cubed plus 35x squared minus 6x minus 9. Now it might look crazy, but it actually works out pretty nice here. I'm going to not forget that this is my x plus 3 quantity squared as my bounce. So I start off as always, so I'm going to go ahead and use a different color. I'm going to put my 4x to the 4th up here. And I would need to have a 4x squared to make that happen. I would go ahead and just do my multiplication. So I have 24x cubed, and I have 36x squared. So the truth is that I have this that showed up, and I had that one that showed up. The one thing that I need to have is I need it to be a 35x, and right now I have a 36. So I'm going to just do a -x squared. So this one and this one are fine, but I need these two guys here to combine to give me this one here. So I would need a negative to make that happen. -1 to make that happen. And then I would also have a -9. So here is what is amazing. this showed up now, and that showed up now. So pretty amazing that it seemed crazy, but I now have everything kind of showing up here. So this is my other factor, so I need to factor that, which is 2x plus 1 and 2x minus 1. So these are all of my factors. So I have a bounce there. I have now a bounce at -1/2. Not a bounce, just to go through. And then I also have a go through at +1/2. So it starts up, goes through, and then has a bounce. So that's what I've got going on here. Like I said, I have a 1/2, and I also have a -1/2 as my other roots. And I already graphed it. I didn't even realize that I had to graph it, and I did. So look at me. Yay! All right, so our last one here is looking at factoring. So we want to factor some cubics. So this guy here, the little baby factor, is cube root, and then same sign. So the cube root of 27 is 3, and the cube root of 8 is 2. So 1 goes in there. And then I need to have this one. So I need to have 3x squared, square it, so it gives 9x squared. I also need to have the 2 squared, which would be that. And then I need to multiply those and then take the opposite sign. Now, this one here, if you notice, I'm going to actually change colors here. This one here is plus in there, so this is going to be the first one that it goes with. And then this one is going to be what it hangs out with. So it's still squared and multiply, but it's also a different sign. So then I've got this one here, which would be cube root and same side in there. And then I look for square, and a different sign. So looks like this one, right? This would be 2 times 2 squared. This would be 3 times 3 squared, and then 2 times 3 and the opposite sign. So that would be what, 7. And then we've got this one here. So this would be the first one that it belongs with, square root or cube root, same sign. And then we've got this one, which is 2x squared and 3 squared. And then this one is these guys multiplied, but the opposite sign as well. Whew, so that takes us to the end. Good luck on your final.